When I was growing up, my grandparents owned a small country hardware store. I worked there through my teens and my 20s. Of course, I have a lot of memories from those old days, including an old woodworker who used to come in to buy tung oil. He spoke of it like it was the elixir of the gods, the perfect finish. Even today, I hear folks speak with reverence about using tung oil. What they don't realize is they've been lied to. We didn't sell tung oil in our hardware store. The bottle may have said tung oil, but it was full of more marketing than pure oil, just as our bottles of Danish oil had no connection to Denmark. Of course, we didn't know it at the time. We'd been lied to as well. We've all been duped. There is more nonsense and confusion surrounding tung oil finishes than perhaps any other finish out there. This matters because tung oil can be one of the most beautiful natural wood finishes around. But slick marketing has confused people. You hear wildly contradictory claims about the proper way to apply it, how long you must wait between coats, whether it's even the right finish for your project. Today, I'll sort through the myths in the marketing. I'll help you identify what is actually in your can, if it's the right finish for your project, and how to properly apply it. First, let's identify what tung oil actually is. Pure tung oil is made from the nuts of the tung tree, which doesn't hurt at all. Tung trees are found in Asia and South America, and the oil has been used as a wood finish for thousands of years. It remains popular today because in its pure form, tung oil is more durable than some other natural finishes, such as linseed oil. It does add a slight amber hue to light-colored wood, but it doesn't darken over time or go rancid like linseed oil might. It's food safe, it's water resistant, it's eco-friendly, and it doesn't put out harmful fumes when you apply it. Pure tung oil is one of the most beautiful natural wood finishes around. No wonder it's a favorite of old-timers and new woodworkers alike. But there are some downsides to pure tung oil finishes. For one thing, it's pretty thick, almost like honey. It soaks into the wood fibers very slowly. It also dries very slowly, requiring a great deal of time between coats. Like linseed oil, a pure tung oil finish also must be maintained through regular application every few months, or it'll begin to look dull and dingy. If you think this sounds like a lot of work, you're not alone. That's why many tung oil products contain only some tung oil, perhaps as little as 5% by volume. The rest of the can is a blend of solvents that make it easier to apply, drying agents to reduce the time between coats, and resins to make it more durable, more glossy, and easier to maintain. Some tung oil blends don't even actually have tung oil in them. Now, most of these blends are still labeled tung oil, as if that's the majority of the makeup of what's in the can. So one person's tung oil finish may be different from another person's, even though they're generally referred to by the same name. This causes a lot of confusion and contradictory information. How can you make sense of what you have? Well, pure tung oil will say it's pure right on the label. It won't have a bunch of mystery ingredients. The label won't say things like it contains petroleum distillates or aliphatic hydrocarbons. It won't come in different glosses, high, medium, low, because pure tung oil is just low gloss. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these blends aren't good finishes. Petroleum distillates are thinners. They make the finish easier to wipe on, help it to soak in better. Metal or chemical dryers or partial polymerization will help it dry faster. Resins can provide a higher luster if that's what you're looking for. They also may make the finish more durable, a better choice for projects that will see wear, such as tabletops. But some feel that those resins mute the beauty and figure of the wood. So it's sort of a matter of personal opinion. The bottom line is you just need to know what's in your can so you can make an informed decision about whether you want to use it in your next project and how you must apply it, because that's a subject of confusion as well. One person may tell you to wipe it on right from the can. Another may tell you you have to thin it with mineral spirits first. You may be told you can recoat after an hour or so, or you might be told you have to wait several days between coats. Some claim you can't build up a tung oil finish through many layers. Others say you can. Why so much confusion? Again, it comes down to what's in the can. Everyone thinks they're applying the same tung oil finish as the next guy, but his methods are wrong. The truth may be that you're applying totally different finishes with totally different requirements, and you're both right. So to sort this out, let's put some finish on some wood. First, I like to raise the grain by wiping it with a damp cloth. When it's dry, I lightly sand it smooth again. I'm going to be applying pure tung oil because that's the most challenging variety. But I'll explain the differences in application between this and various other blends as I go. All tung oil finishes can be applied with a brush or a cloth. Since pure tung oil is so thick, I think a brush is less messy. Whether it's pure or a blend, you want to flood it on liberally and give it time to soak into the wood. I watch for dry spots to appear and I add a little more. This first coat may take several minutes to fully saturate the wood. When it doesn't appear to be soaking in anymore, I wipe off the excess with a towel and I let it sit. Blended tung oil finishes are much thinner, so they soak in faster and perhaps go deeper into the surface fibers. This is a good thing because the deeper the penetration, the better the protection. You get the same effect from the pure stuff by thinning it about 50% with turpentine or mineral spirits, or white spirits some people call them, or even pure orange oil if you don't have access to petroleum-based solvents. How long should you wait to recoat? Well, that depends on the blend. Again, this can get confusing. Many blends say on the can that you can recoat in about 12 hours. They actually contain as much as 80% mineral spirits, and that evaporates very quickly. Those 12 hours are required for the added varnish resins to dry, not for the tung oil, which may make up only about 5% of what's in the can anyway. Pure tung oil dries very slowly because it must react to the oxygen in the air and harden rather than evaporating. When I learned to use pure tung oil, I was taught to keep flooding it on until it wouldn't take any more, wipe off the excess, and then wait at least 3 days for it to harden before adding a second coat. So why does this bottle of tung oil say that you can recoat in just 1 hour? Because they aren't talking about adding coats in layers to build up a protective film. They're talking about waiting an hour for that first coat to soak in, then adding some more of it until the fibers are fully saturated. It's not contradictory to what I learned, it's just confusing. This bottle describes essentially a multi-step process of applying what really should just be called the first coat. If you apply after just an hour, you're merely adding to that first coat. You're not adding a second one on top of it. The new oil will just mix with your hour-old oil that's already in the fibers. Think of it as sprinkling some water on a sponge. You sprinkle some on top and you let that soak in, then you sprinkle on some more, and then you sprinkle on some more, and the sponge gets more and more saturated. You wouldn't call that adding 3 coats of water to the sponge. You're merely incrementally soaking the sponge with water. This bottle makes it seem like a similar process is layering on coats when it's actually incrementally saturating the fibers or adding to the first coat. See what I mean about confusing? So let's get back to the actual real world of applying it. I took some time to make sure that first coat was fully soaked in. I didn't come back every hour and add a little more. I just took 5 or 10 minutes, watched for the dry spots, and added as needed. Once I was sure it was soaked in, I wiped off the excess, and now let's let it sit overnight. The next day, it's still not fully dry. Not the side that was pure tung oil, not the side that I thinned 50%. It looks mostly dry. It even kind of feels dry. But it's not dry. It's just fully soaked into the wood. I know this hasn't dried because my cloth, which I hung up overnight, is still just as damp as when I hung it up. Tung oil does not dry in 1 hour or 2 hours or 12 hours or even 24 hours. It will take days. How many days depends on how thin the coat was. Thinner coats dry faster because the oxygen in the air can permeate through it more quickly. You may be able to recoat after 3 or 4 days if you applied a 50-50 mix of oil and thinner. It may take as long as a week for a thick coat of pure oil to dry. If this were a blended finish out of a can, then you'd be ready for a new coat in just a few hours because there's very little tung oil in it. Whatever you're using, when it's finally time to recoat, you should first lightly sand with about 300 grit. This will smooth out any surface imperfections and create a mechanical bond between this layer and the next that you'll put on top. After the first coat, each successive coat won't soak in nearly as much because most of the pores were filled during that first coat. Keep repeating the process for as many coats as you wish to apply. Wipe, wait, sand, wipe, wait, sand, and so on. Don't rush it. If your sandpaper gums up, it isn't ready to recoat. Rushing a pure tung oil finish will lead to something that looks like wrinkles in the finish as it puckers and raises. How many coats do you need? I like a lot of them, perhaps 5 to 7 or even more. So is a pure tung oil finish worth the effort? Maybe, maybe not. Some people aren't in a hurry. They like all natural finishes. They see a special beauty in a well built up pure tung oil finish. Others are eager to get things done. And the latter greatly outnumber the former, which is why there are so many blended tung oil finishes available. It's up to you to decide which is best for your project. I hope this video clears up some of the confusion you might have. For more videos about wood finishing, visit stumpynubs.com and select the finishing link from the home page. See you there. MyWoodcutters.com is the sort of small business I like to support. Stefan is a great guy, and he can find you knives and cutters for almost any joiner, planer, shaper, or molding machine. And his are the best prices if you're planning to upgrade to a helical carbide cutter head. Please use the link below this video to check with him before you buy somewhere else. Some small businesses are just worth supporting. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.